it's Miyako. For those who don't know me, I am a Japanese living in Japan who is a huge Trump supporter, and now it's time for another Ask Kyoko episode. Today's question is something that came from many of you everywhere, including Patreon, so thank you very much. And speaking of Patreon, this channel is supported by my awesome friends on Patreon, so if you ever feel like supporting me, go check out the page. I'll link it below. And yes, that was a smooth delivery. Okay, now let's dive in. Today's question is, what is your opinion on the North Korean situation? There are so many aspects to consider that it's even difficult just to pick what to talk about, what to tell guys, and that's why it took me forever to prepare for this video, but I actually came up with a great idea. Now let me ask you guys a question. In my previous video, what did I say matters most in politics? Do you guys remember? In my previous video, I told you guys this Japanese phrase, which is seiji wa kekka, meaning what matters in politics is the results. Results, baby! So let's use that way of thinking to read what's going on in East Asia, meaning what I like to see is the results, like who's getting what in this situation as a result. What I like to do is to send a message to my or our allies in America, meaning American conservatives, whose ideas are starting to kind of differ from each other, I'm afraid. So I would like to send a message for conservative people in America. But I will briefly introduce the East Asian people's reactions before I get started though, because I think some of you are very curious of that. So in terms of North Korean missiles, as you may know, they can already hit here with their current missiles, like we're within their reach, but they haven't attacked here yet. Why? Because they're not stupid enough to be suicidal. And against South Korea, like the city of Seoul, North Korea doesn't even need missiles to attack there. Why? Because it's so close that, as you may know, they only need artillery guns. And they're already in place, like they're aiming at South Korea already. And I'll link an article titled 5 North Korean Weapons South Korea Should Fear in the description box below. And somehow we have been keeping our balance, you know, we are not in military conflicts yet, like for a while. The only thing that's changing the situation recently is, of course, the North Korean development on the technology to actually hit the US land with their missiles, like the nuclear power. And maybe I don't even need to tell you guys this, but of course it's now the Trump administration, and now the world is trying to see the red line of the US, you know, like we don't know who's gonna cross the line or who's gonna attack first, that sort of thing. So we never know what's gonna happen, but the interesting thing that I find is if you see an interview of South Korean people, like you know, ordinary regular people in the city or something, you'll see that they are not afraid of North Korean threat at all, like at all. And they say that it's an annual thing, like every April they just do this threatening thing because they have anniversary and everything. So what we need to consider is, one, you know, North Korea always does this in this season, and two, we have a new administration in America, which is different from the previous one. And there's a third point, which is that the South Korean presidential election, and experts here in Japan are pointing out that by showing the power against North Korea, the US is showing that this is what happens if you establish a pro-North Korean administration. In other words, North Korea is apparently against the US, right? And so if South Korea has a new president who is pro-North Korea, then South Korea will be against the US as well, which the US doesn't want. And right now, North Korea is showing the attitude against the US, and the US is attacking them like verbally right now, or by showing the military power in the sea, basically saying that, hey, South Korea, if you go like North Korea, then we will have all this power against you guys as well, or something like that. And there's even more, which is something that people tend to forget, but the international laws wise, the US, North and South Korea are in the middle of war right now. Like, it's on the pause, but technically you guys are still in the war. Some American conservatives might say that the war itself is an interventionist thing, but I personally think that it's a great battle against communism. So we all should engage in that, I think. And most importantly, You know, be responsible. If you don't want to, then strengthen us, you know? But anyway, so by the time I post this video, there might be the election result, I don't know. But I can tell that the US will not like pro-North Koreans present in South Korea, especially the one that would deny the operational control during wartime, by which they are supposed to let the US have the control of operations during wartime. And even we Japanese do not want that. Like, we do not want pro-North Korean present in South Korea because things will get worse and worse. Anyway, that should be enough background for you guys. Now let's think about what's happening to Japan. So as I said in the beginning, I would like to focus on what we Japanese are doing as a result of this ongoing North Korean threat. Not only because, you know, results are what matter, but also because all the countries will take actions based on the result of the past, which is now. So it's really important to understand what we are doing as a result of the past. So what is Japan doing right now as a result of the threats? Thanks to North Korea, Japan is actually having changes to the things that we were not happy about for decades after the war, such as self-defense. Self-defense topic is very wide, but I will name 7 aspects that are controversial here. Number 1, we are now talking about revising our constitution realistically for the first time in its 7 decades of untouched history, which is crazy. You know, the threat is real, so we even talk about where and how to evacuate, like shelters, you know, like because we don't have any, and also we talk about what the local authorities have to do and so on. So because the threat is real, we now have to change our constitution for practical reasons as well. Number 2, now we're talking about our attack ability, meaning that even though our constitution, which was largely influenced by Soviet spies, is imposing an exclusive defense policy called Senshuboe in Japanese, and that is stopping us from owning our own military force even. In order to protect our own nation, apparently we need to have the ability to attack others. So now the Japanese government started to consider the installation of cruise missiles, even though it's crazy to think that we don't have that yet. But yeah, the parties in power are saying that it'll be our counter-attack ability, while the opposition parties are saying that we would violate the exclusive defense policy, which is nuts to me. Number 3, we're talking about boosting our defense budget. Yes! As you may or may not know, there was news like this. The Japanese Self-Defense Force has been practicing with the US military, and that costs a lot. And the missiles to prepare, or everyday scrambles in the sky, which is like 2 or 3 times a day. Like, things cost so much, you know. But guess what? Right now, our defense budget is only 1% of our GDP, while the international standard is 2%, as I said before. So now we are taking this North Korean threats as our great opportunity to boost our budget, so that we can cooperate with other nations for peace, for now and for the future. You know, we Japanese, like especially conservatives, always wanted to boost our defense budget, but we couldn't because it's so difficult, you know, like people don't understand how things work. But now people are starting to understand, so we gotta thank North Korea. Number 4, we are also realizing the importance of alliance. Prime Minister Abe is working very well with other nations like the US, but also like other nations such as the UK or France. Like, they're here to practice with us together, I believe. As for alliance, we had to think a lot about the one with the US because Obama had the pivot to Asia, right? And what that means to us, or what that means to America, like how the situation right now is, which is very difficult. And also on alliance, Japanese people often talk about our dark history, which is that we couldn't participate in the Gulf War, for example, where we only paid the money and we didn't choose to fight together, which probably made the US distrust us. So I think that Japan needs to be aware that we are in this together, and rather we have to realize that bringing nations all together right now for this North Korean threat will establish a good defense system for future threats as well, such as China or Russia. Number 5, North Korean threat is getting us the opportunity to let more people know about the abduction committed by North Korea and it's not only an opportunity to know, but we really, like, there's a need to rescue them right away, like right now. It's kind of ironic, I have to say, but it's good, I think, that now we can talk about rescuing them like realistically. And number 6, on a similar note to the previous one, we are talking about the scenario of North Korea attacking South Korea physically, and then when that happens, we have to rescue the Japanese people, right? So yeah, now we are talking about that scenario as well, which is an eye-opener for a lot of Japanese people because they're non-political for the most part. If I remember correctly, the number of the Japanese people who just visit South Korea in this vacation season here is like the most in history. I don't know what to say. And lastly, number 7 is something that I just said, but North Korean threat is also very simple and it's very easy to understand even for non-political people. So it's a good reason for them to get interested in politics and self-defense and all sorts of things. And therefore, I have to say that the threat is not all bad, rather it's kind of good, considering that some people are starting to pay attention. So I'm really hoping that more and more Japanese people will wake up and start saying that we need more defense budget, we need shelters, we need our own military, we need to rescue our people in North Korea and South Korea if anything happens, and all sorts of essential things as a nation, at least at its minimum. So the worst case scenario is getting more realistic, but to look at the bright side, we are making a better system to prepare for that. However, though, there is a problem that I'm seeing, and it's something that I heard from a Japanese expert who is an advisor for an American think tank. And that is, in order to solve the North Korean issue, President Trump ended up asking China to help us as a result. And as you probably remember, China is the big enemy that Mr. Trump was calling out even during the presidential race. And unfortunately, this means that in the meantime, you ask a favor to China, which is to solve the North Korean issue. You can't bash them too much, because if you do, they will say, hey, if you don't like what we do, fine, we won't help you, you know, and they will start bossing around also. And China is China. As a matter of fact, China has already requested the US to fire the commander of the United States Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, who has been strongly against China's moves in the South China Sea, as I probably have introduced you guys before, while Obama ignored the command. You know, during the Obama administration, Admiral Harris took so much risk, and Japan can't thank him enough, and we are very, very angry to hear the news, you know, but China is just being China, and they are seeing how far they can go. They are trying, you guys. I can't tell at this point if it's Trump administration's miscalculation or intention to be in this relationship with China. But here's a question. Is President Trump stupid to ask China for help? I don't think so. Like, I'm talking about the stupid part. As you may have heard, there's an argument of if President Trump threatened China with bombing Syria while at dinner with Xi, even though the missile choice was somehow not so destructive and it's not so scary. Others insist that President Trump worked on President Xi to rather do business with him after solving the North Korean issues together. Considering that she is having an election soon, meaning that the author of the bestseller Art of the Deal might have made a deal with his enemy. Like, we don't know. My concern is that China will always stay China as long as they have the dictatorship by the Communist Party, and they will always lie to you, and they will only go after their goals, which is to defeat the US in the end. But either way, regarding the question of if President Trump is stupid or not, we need to remember that Donald Trump is a successful businessman. And now let me introduce you his book called Think Big, something that my friend sent me a long time ago. In this book, in terms of solving problems, he wrote this: accept the challenge, realize that you have what it takes to overcome the challenge, then look for solutions, study possible solutions, gather knowledge, ask experts for advice and insights, formulate a plan, start testing possible solutions. If one idea fails, go to the next one and the next until you succeed. And he later said this: you need to be flexible. You need to be able to adjust to continually changing circumstances if you want to win the tough battles in business and in life. Being overly rigid in your thinking and your habits will not get you to the top. Accepting a fixed pattern places limits on you and your future. To summarize these parts, what he believes in is to accept the challenge, believe in yourself, and act on possible solutions with the help of experts. And at the same time, in order to win the tough battles, you have to remember to be flexible as well. And now let's think about some American conservatives who are claiming that President Trump has become an interventionist. Here's a question that I have for them, which is, do they not want to make America great again? Because if they want to make America great again, how can they judge on Donald Trump at this stage while he promised the goal with them, and also he has the way of thinking that I just mentioned? Rather than that, what I would like to ask is, what was it that you saw in Donald Trump that was different from all the rest of the candidates? Like, we all knew that this was gonna be a tough journey. Why are some of you judging him and betraying your own analysis and expectations for President Trump? Did you see this post from him? Like, do you understand what that means? He has to follow the political rules in the field, but he has a hard time, and that's why this happens. Now let me show you something. During the presidential race, Philip Wallach, I hope I'm pronouncing right, from the Brookings Institution wrote an article titled "Looking Back from 2020, 3 Trump Presidencies," and he introduced the 3 possible scenarios for Trump presidency. And they are: 1. America made great again. Trump succeeds as a figurehead and negotiator. 2. Congress made great again. Trump's failure and the return of America's first branch. 3. Just sad. How Trump exploits American democracy's weaknesses. I'll link the article below, but I agree to those possible scenarios for the most part. And President Trump's goal, of course, is to make America great again. But what I'm seeing right now is a scenario number 2. Congress made great again, which has a part like this. Partisan differences took a backseat to institutional prerogatives, and wonder of wonders, Congress rediscovered its spine, passing a bevy of laws over Trump's vetoes and thereby diminishing his ability to dictate the agenda. Members of both houses made it clear they were ready to meet unlawful actions with impeachment, and we will soon see whether they make good on that threat. Whatever the result, Trump is now a wounded animal. Isn't this what is starting to happen? I mean, I totally get you, I understand, I totally respect you if you want to think differently, but this is something that I'm afraid is happening right now. Like, it's starting to happen. Like, listen to me till the end. Because President Trump wanted to go straight to making America great again for you guys, he wanted to hurry, right? And I see him struggling. I mean, it's like, it's ridiculous level, you know, I get that, but I do see the struggles that he's having. And the problem is, I don't know how things work in business, but in politics, you are supposed to be making allies with enemies even. You're not supposed to be making enemies, especially from within, like in the same party. Let me explain better with a Japanese example. Look at our Prime Minister Abe. His party is in control, right? But actually there's another party that they're teaming up with called Komeito, and they are pro-China. And even inside of his own party, as I said before, there are pro-China politicians inside. Pro-China, of course, meaning the enemy of us conservatives, including Prime Minister Abe. Because Prime Minister Abe knows both what not to change and what he can compromise, he is keeping his political power, teaming up with his enemies, and getting things done in the limited situation. What I'm trying to say is that we have to see the reality. You know, if I was American, I would tell people that the US president is not as strong as people think. You might have gotten a wrong idea, especially because even leftists agitated that if Trump won, he would be a dictator and things would dramatically change all of a sudden. But under the democratic system, especially American system, president doesn't have much power. And it's also the 21st century and you're constantly being watched strictly by other nations as well, so you just can't go do things selfishly, you know? We always have to cooperate with the people inside your party and all the people, including your enemies. So when I look at President Trump now, I am seeing a different way of fighting that he has doing. Like, of course, he's fighting in the same way as before in certain areas, but in other areas, he is learning. He's trying out some other ways to fight. We have to face it, like as soon as he became the president, he signed all the orders, like the most in the post-Cold War history. He went straight to his goals as soon as he became the president. Then he bombed Syria, now participating in East Asia. Why? Use your imagination. He says in his book, it's not always a straight shot to success. You know, what is the problem for him right now? What is stopping him? And what is bothering him? What are the solutions for those problems right now? I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's his luck or if it's his intention, but North Korean threat is showing that he has valid reasons to be fixing all the disasters that Obama brought, especially to the military. And all politicians and judges in the United States should agree to him in this situation. What I have to tell you guys as Japanese is that you must trust President Trump. Because I do. And I'm not even American, I'm Japanese in Japan, but I do trust him. And my country, Japan, is a great friend of the United States. We are in this together. And I support President Trump. You might have the fear of President Trump becoming like another betrayer or another interventionist, but believe me, politics isn't an easy field. Like, if it was easy, we wouldn't have problems, but we do because it's difficult. But you have to remember, guys, that you've got the best leader that you can ever have right now. Remember that. Like, if you give up on President Trump right now, things will go way, way worse, both for America and for the world, including my country, Japan, and I don't want that to happen. Don't ever fall for the trap of leftists. President Trump is not doing things alone. He's not a dictator, right? He's a leader of democracy, meaning that he has all the experts around that he has chosen carefully. And those people are amazing. Those people they suffered from the Obama administration and they want to fix the nation and the world. And also another important thing to remember is you guys are not alone. Especially when you have issues domestically, maybe you think like, oh, this is about us and it has nothing to do with all the rest of the nations. But realize that you have your allies overseas, just like me, right? Like, look at leftists. For example, do you remember International Women's Day? A lot of the women in each country were marching down the street, but what were they saying? They were against Trump. Even in Europe or Japan, that's what leftists do. They unite internationally to work on the politics of the United States domestically. Don't cut us off just because you believe that it's a domestic issue. Like, trust me, it's not. Like, the battle that we have is about the power of balance in the world where all of us are in together. Let's be real though, I'm not sure if your country trusts mine or if you trust other Asian nations that are fighting against the common enemies, but let's look at the bright side. This is a great opportunity to start establishing a strong bond so that neither of us will betray one another. Trust and understanding is something that's not just there. We have to work on it. And right now, surprisingly, North Korea is giving us the great opportunity. As for Japan-US alliance, there's a shortcut for that, which is suggested by this awesome American historian, and I will introduce him and his idea in my next video, hopefully. Let's cooperate and do our best and regain the balance of power in this world so that you can work on your domestic issues. Anyway, I'm gonna end this video here, so thank you so much for watching till the end. If you want more of these videos, please subscribe to this channel, and also check out my Patreon page. I will put the link below. And also, if you have any question that you want to ask me on politics or history, let me know. Hashtag #AskKyoko or whatever. Just let me know. Oh, by the way, I'm very sad about the election result of France. Anyway, I talked too much. Sorry. Thank you again. So until next time, please take care, and I will talk to you guys later, okay?